keep learning, keep knowing, there'll be an opportunity that will arise for you to step up.
Do the necessary changes when it's needed, then that's a bad recipe for failure.
Be the person who would put a smile on other people in work culture, which will create a happy, vibing place for everyone to work. Welcome back to the third and final segment of today's episode. By investing in your growth, your company invests in your happiness and ultimately its own success. So let's explore how commitment to professional development can be the key to unlocking long-term happiness at work. My first question is for Denham. As a successful entrepreneur, you understand the importance of continuous learning. How does your company offer opportunities for professional development and skills for your employees?
Interesting. I think with the previous two podcasts, as I mentioned, one thing that we encourage people to do is for them to always look at what they want to do in future. And something that we've implemented at GEP is the Flex Friday concept, where every other Friday they are allowed to take the day off as long as they've lived up to the expectation of extreme sense of ownership. And that Friday they are allowed to take it off and then work on something that they're passionate about. I mean, it need not be another source of income. It can be developing a skill or working on something else. Something recently that I sort of I'm trying to implement. I'm not too sure if it will go through, something that I propose, because most of the decisions that I try to implement at specifically GP is something that I share with the team, and I ask them, is this something that you're keen on? Is in lieu of the Flex Friday, which has worked to a great extent, is an unlimited amount of leave that they can take. Now, some people might ask me the question, you fuss always when there's so many government holidays, and why? But the difference is, it's again a mental switch that it's a psychological thing. When it's a Poya day or a national holiday, you tend to want to do something outside developing a skill. You want to relax. So when you say Flex Friday and when you say it's a day that's kept for you to develop something, you feel this guilt to just sleep in and not do something. So with the whole unlimited leave thing, I sort of envision, okay, you anyway have time off that you could take to go on a trip or a vacation or spend time with someone. It's important, for that mental satisfaction to go off grid. I myself take an honest attempt to take few days off completely away from work to refresh. So you need that. But when this whole unlimited leave thing came into the picture, what I was sort of hoping for is for people to use that time to work on something that needs a time of about 4 weeks or something to develop on. I know a couple of our staff, they took about 6 weeks. They went and they developed on their skills of meditating and all that stuff, because that's something that they're passionate about, they want to work on. So with that initiative, what we are trying to sort of get done here is to get the people to understand that, hey, whilst this job wants you to work, as long as you take an extreme sense of ownership in your work. I keep using that word because that's an important word, because if not for them taking ownership, it's difficult. Is for them to sort of have that opportunity to say, hey, we have this day that the company has given for us to develop on a skill. And we not only give that day, but as part of our mentorship program, as part of the time that we spend, we help build them too. So we sort of refer to as capacity building their capacity. If it's the funding, if it's the mentoring that's needed, if it's the advice that's needed, we connect them with the right people that's happy to help. I think that's something that we sort of want as a small organization. We do. I'm not too sure how it will work with your industry, Prasadi, or how it will work with your industry. But within the industries that I work with, it's something that we are keen to encourage. where people have that opportunity to think, hey, the company values us, they are asking us to work on something, so they've given this Flex Friday option, let me maximize it. I mean, I've had people who goes for, modeling shoots during the day, and then we've been flexible for us to allow them that opportunity, and then they cover up as long as they have the extreme sense of ownership that we refer to as an important element. So I guess that's the way that
How do you measure that?
measure in terms of the ownership of work.
Yeah.
So what we do is each of them have two things. One is they have their own KPI. So their own KPIs are something that they set, understanding themselves, and then they sit with their mentor or whoever who's responsible to assess it every month. So through that, and then they are encouraged because they set their KPIs, because the KPI is directly linked to their next increment. And so they set their own goals. Obviously, it has to be aligned with the company goals. So we give a set of goals that we want as a company from everybody. They set based on that. I mean, sometimes it's their KPIs are cross-functional collaboration. It's as simple as learning what the other industry, what the other function
Does.
is doing. It can be improving your communication skills. It's encouraging them to, because we have training programs. We have a trainer that comes and helps develop. It's about improving your communication skills. It's as simple as those things. It's about developing a new skill. Be it, some of our team members in-house, the talent that they have is immense. I mean, even if you take this podcast, for example, we haven't hired anyone from outside to host it. It's our own in-house talent. We're giving them that platform, that setting for them to speak on. So to answer your question, how we monitor it is through KPIs. The second thing is we have weekly meetings. If I speak specifically from GEP's point of view, I mean, we have the same thing with the agriculture side of things that we do. We had the same thing with when we ran the restaurant Kottu Labs, and with the manufacturing side of things we have weekly meetings. But if I specifically focus on GEP, every day of the week except for Fridays, because Friday we have this policy. We try to have this policy, no meeting policy. We don't have any meetings on Friday. We have all our meetings on Monday to Thursday, unless of course there is a holiday, because Sri Lanka is known to have a lot of holidays. We have to push something back, or we try to advance it. So during those meetings, everybody is responsible for a certain element, and they set their own deadline. So generally, I say, hey, you know what, this needs to happen. When can you deliver? 90% of the time, the date that they say is the date that I had in mind. If it's not the date I had in mind, I say, hey, you know what, you need to advance this based on the company objective. So they feel involved in what they do. So that's how we assess it. As long as that happens, I have no issue.
Knowledge sharing. With that, Shehan, this question is for you. Knowledge sharing is vital for any successful organization. How does your company culture encourage mentorship and exchange of knowledge among your team members?
Yeah, so I would talk about Unitrades again, the export arm of the business. So I joined Unitrades in 2022. As soon as I joined, and so as anybody else who joins the team, is given a very short course, not in-house. There's a tea introduction to tea course hosted by or conducted by the chairman of the tea board. So I actually went through the same course, where my wife also got the opportunity. Because I was doing it, she asked me if she could join, and we got her to do the course as well. So that's one way of us, if a new person is entering the whole industry, it doesn't give you vast knowledge of the whole thing, but it gives you an stepping stone to all aspects of the industry. So from manufacturing to producing, and then grading, tea tasting, then selling abroad, and to shipping and everything. So that's the first thing. Then mostly this particular job is on the job training, because there is tea is not something that you can learn from a couple of months of training inside the tea room. You can't do that because the climate is changing. When the climate change, the taste of different regions of tea changes, and we need to understand the client's requirement to match that particular taste and which regions we have to go to get that particular tea. So we always have a mentor or a supervisor above us working, and I've been trained under Mr. Sunith. He's actually also very new to the business, but he's been in the industry for about 20 years. So he has the knowledge about, all the regions and what is exactly needed from us to cater to that particular customer. So on a daily basis, I get trained by him. It doesn't stop. And my father, obviously, he started off as a tea taster, and now he's running the whole show. So he's a great mentor as well. And that's how we get our training. It's a small company, right? But I would think that, even if it's a bigger exporting company, it's the same process with the training. It's on the job training where you get to taste different cups of tea, blind tastings where you have about 50 different types of tea, and you have to sip every cup and you have to say it's from Nuwara region, it's from Kandy region. Yeah, it's not easy, slow.
It's like MasterChef.
Yeah, exactly. So the general population, I don't think they know the effort that goes into a cup of tea, right?
That's why we're promoting tea over coffee.
Yes, that is exactly why, because we are a tea producing country, right?
Yes, correct.
And most of the younger generation, or even most of the population, does not know the effort put into one single cup of tea. It's a lot of work goes through, from manufacturing, from the blending to dividing it to different grades. I mean, we only know one particular grade, right? But there are 20 different types of tea, and different regions require different types of tea. So it's a big subject, and everything is like, in any company would give you the knowledge by working on the job. You learn. I think even the person who's teaching me learns every day as well, because it keeps on changing. The needs keep on changing, the competitors keep on changing. The Ceylon tea name is getting a little more expensive for the foreign customers, so they tend to move to Kenyan tea or Chinese tea. Or for the customer, it's not a big change, right? But Ceylon tea still has that name, but it is getting expensive with the labor cost going up and with the exchange rate problems. So yeah, mostly it's on the job training, and anybody who comes into the company gets that initial training from the short course that we always provide, and also then on the job training.
It's very interesting and very insightful. Thank you for sharing that. With that, Prasadi, last and final question, career advancement is a motivator for many professionals. How does your company culture provide a clear path for your employees to progress in their careers within the legal field?
Okay. Again, I think I should talk about this in a generic way. I have never worked, or I have never come across, like through my colleagues or anyone, like my close friends, a company who will sit you in the beginning, who will sit with you and take you through the progress of you, which you can achieve during the tenure of the tenure which you work for that company. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? I think, now see, I joined my company as an executive, and then I got promoted. But until the day I got promoted, I wasn't sure whether I'll get promoted or not. The uncertainty of the career development, transparency is zero. How you are going to get that position is not given. I think that is one thing where all the companies in Sri Lanka, or any company, or businesses, to your new recruits, you have to sit with them and you have to specifically indicate to them, you have to achieve these things and your achievements should contribute or support the company business like this. And if that happens, you will get this. That transparency, that direct indication is not there. So mostly what happens is people when they go to work, they work, but they even don't know what is their end, what is their end goal, right? So sometimes I have seen many companies, okay, this year the company performance is not good, so we can't offer you the promotion which we were supposed to offer you. So it's bad. Just because the company is not performing well, you should not deprive the employee who should have achieved standards. That's how I think, right? So I think in Sri Lanka, not only for the legal profession, I know for legal profession it's very difficult, because now if you take marketing, if you can quantify the performance, reward is very easy because it's measurable, right? But when it comes to my profession, we can't quantify what we do, right? So it's very subjective when they measure what I did, the services I did, it's very subjective. They can come and say, no, your services are not up to par, right? So because of that, I think when a person starts his employment, there has to be a clear indication what needs to be done to get a career development. Okay, now career development is two ways. Like one thing is that in the literal way, you climb up the ladder. The other thing is that you get your personal, personal development growth you learn, right? So I think both these things has to be there. Okay, now say you get promotions, you get monetary benefits and all, but still you are zero. You start with zero and after 6 months you're still zero, then that is also bad, right? Again, the other way, you have learned so much, the growth exposure is so much, but there's no clear like material career growth, then again that is also bad. So I think there has to be a balance. So it's not bad for you to have a vision. When you start a work, you have to have a vision. Okay, after 2 years, 3 years, I have to be in this position. So if you have a clear indication from the company that, okay, you work hard, you achieve these standards, we will be giving it to you, that person will take, again, we are coming to ownership. That person will give, okay, if he was supposed to give 100%, he will give 150%, 50%, because he knows what am I going to end up with. So I think that clear indication is not there, which I think should have. So in most of the companies in Sri Lanka, they don't have a clear vision or indication on or transparency about career development, which I think lacks and which I think should have.
So proper organizational structure and a ladder?
Yeah, no. So the organizational structure is anyway there in every company. But what I'm saying is, now you have to do this. If you do this, now say you can even identify, okay, now what is your educational level? Right now say you have a bachelor's, okay? After 3 years, you for work wise you achieve these things. Your personal growth wise, you do another diploma or you complete your master's, then you can reach to this position. Yeah, there has to be a clear indication. If your performance is bad, of course there will be appraisals. Of course you're not going to get promoted or go to another position without appraisals. No. So the companies do not do that, right? When they, like in most of the companies, I think, I'm not talking about all the companies, but most of the companies, there is no clear indication on how people can grow in their career. It's just that people blindly getting into things, and if they're like, because now, have you seen, like, the current thing is where people who take career breaks climb up the ladder more than people who stay in one place, right? That is because people go out. Why? Because they are waiting until they reach to the next level, but they don't get it. So now they know it. So they, with the exposure they get here, they go to another place. So then you can't retain people. When the turnover is too much for a company, the performance will be affected, right? So I think having a clear indication of career path, the development path for employees is a key to the performance of the company as well. You can add if you don't agree.
Now, I'm just thinking out loud here now. I mean, from a conglomerate point of view,
Yeah.
It makes sense because you could show a structure. But for a small business, sometimes when you're trying to establish yourself, when you're trying to grow, it is difficult to say, hey, if you start here, you'll end up here. it's more of an opportunity that arises. So that's why I was actually thinking out loud. Someone's gonna listen to this and say, "Hey, Tommy,
No,
what's gonna be
it
my,
can,
my next stage." But I mean, that said, I was also trying, because it's important. It's important for someone to really know where they are going. So it's something that I can give a thought to in terms of how can the person understand, hey, if I perform, if I achieve this, this is my growth, this is where it's going to be. Because for a startup, for a small business, a business that's growing, it's all about accumulating new opportunities. I mean, it's not like we have a set business. I mean obviously growth means there's going to be new things that's coming in. So something that I tell the guys is, hey, keep learning, keep knowing, there'll be an opportunity that will arise for you to step up, sort of a thing. And it sort of comes down to the fact that what I'm trying to sort of implement within the organization right now is to say, I want to be challenged. I want someone, I as an individual want to be challenged. I want to take up a new role, take up a different role, to start thinking. So that opens up a role that I was playing for someone else to take up. So that's, I guess, the closest way I can sort of relate to what you do, and then sort of communicate that to them.
Yeah, I mean, the context might differ
Be a little
when
bit,
yeah,
but I
with
agree,
the
because people
circumstances
need
and
to
all.
know, people need to have a plan, because in the US, if you are selecting a government job, and if it's, for example, a support assistant, they have different grades: grade A, grade B, grade C, grade D, and they have certain skills that you need to have to fit into those grades, and they have certain salary slabs. So it's actually easy. When you go look up, you could do an exam, and if you get a certain amount of marks, then you're graded according to that grade, and then you're paid that promised salary. And obviously you get increments, and then by virtue of increments, your next increment lifts your grade to that point, and you grow. So for them, it's more easy to do that. But that also sort of is a double-edged sword sort of a thing, because if you're someone who's keen on just working and being in a certain field and just growing in that way, you will stick to that, which is not bad. But then sometimes you won't be an overachiever too, in a way. So it again comes down to the fact, as an individual, what's your end goal, what do you want to achieve. And I relate back to what I said, where if that company is considered your vehicle that drives you towards your career professional goal, and if you're not getting it, then that's time for you to look at something else or reach out. So not that I completely disagree with what you're saying, I'm just thinking from a small business point of
Yes,
view.
can differ based on the circumstance also. Yeah, agree.
That was very interesting.
I want to ask you, Shehan, a question. Like, how do you see this within your industry? Because it's a different field.
Yeah, so it's very similar to what you said. Like, it's a very small industry. We don't have much this thing. But I know for a fact that when I was in Australia, this particular what you spoke was actually is being practiced there. When you walk into an interview itself, you are given the parameters of your job and how you could advance from that position as well. I haven't gone through that process myself, but I know a friend who's from Melbourne Water. So it's like the water board in Melbourne, who, when he joined the company, he was given a clear indication, okay, this is your job parameters, and if you, because he was in the finance industry as well, if you complete this particular qualification, which was CPA at the time, you can get this job. It's within the company, you can move to this level and your salary will be this. So he worked towards that, right? So you have that encouragement or from the company, where it's, like you said, very transparent as to where they want their employees to be. Sadly, I don't see that in Sri Lanka, and our company here in Sri Lanka is very small, so we don't get that. A lot of people, come and then they go, they see another opportunity, because we are a small company and there are much more bigger tea companies where they can get more exposure and more experience with. So they come to us, they get the initial experience, and then they move on, and which is okay, I guess, because if they don't have to be stuck in one place or stuck with us, in a smaller company, where they can, go to a bigger, like an opportunity.
I have a question. Kara got a factory tea. The people who have plucked tea and what they do. Is there like a career growth for them, or is it always going to be?
It's always going, because I don't know the tea plucking side, because we don't have a tea estate. We just have the manufacturing factory. So we buy tea leaves from growers from the area. What I've seen is people who have been doing the tea plucking job, it's a dying breed, right? So there is nobody to continue. That's why I've had a chat with you recently with the labor issues that we are facing. Everybody's, if you do it properly, it's a good job, right? You can earn quite a lot, and from your small acre or 2 acres of land, you can earn quite a good living. But the mentality of the younger generation is that they want a job in Colombo. They want a job where they can sit and type something and a clerk job or something. Or the biggest issue is now is the government job. Whereas people are, for political reasons, they are hiring, but they are not doing anything. They are going for the pension, and they are just wasting their time. They don't want to put that extra effort into doing something on their own and working towards getting that satisfied. They want to easy, or the you don't have that how do you say it, sense of doing something on your own. So they would prefer working for somebody else, or working in the government sector and just finishing off your time and then getting the pension. They're not motivated, I see. But a lot of people, we are having a major issue with this at the moment. Labor is going to be a big issue for the tea industry in the future. That's something that I have seen, and something I have even in a bigger audience where TEA, Tea Exporters Association meetings and tea manufacturers association meetings, I have spoken about and looking for answers.
Isn't technology developed enough to be, or is it
not
Actually had the same question.
not for the tea
plucking?
industry? It's still very labor intensive work that is being carried out. There are machines that do the job, like the cutting, but because our country is all the tea fields are in hills, it's difficult. But other countries like India, I think India has the same issue, but Kenya and other countries that produce, Bangladesh, their tea fields are on mostly flat land. So there is a machine that you can sweep through the tea fields, which makes things easier. But in Sri Lanka, because of the hill country, and even low grown tea, the tea is grown on hills. So that machine is rendered useless when it comes to
Creates an opportunity.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. I was thinking. What do you think?
I was actually thinking we should have like a
part-time.
workforce, plucking tea, train them. That's what I was saying.
thinking about like having a what do you call, a machine who
That-
can reach that slopey. Yeah,
Of course.
Two different thoughts.
Works either way.
good.
But it
I
creates
was
an
thinking of a
opportunity.
part-time job.
definitely.
Yes, thank you.
So with that, we've come to the end of this segment and our episode. With its mentorship programs, clear career paths, or access to training resources, a culture growth benefits everyone. We hope this episode of Beyond the Paycheck has given you some food for thought. Would you guys like to give any closing remarks before we...
Prasad, you go ahead.
Okay. I think what I want to say is be the person who would put a smile on other people in work culture, which will create a happy, vibing place for everyone to work.
Such a powerful sentence.
I think because I'm always laughing and smiling, and I think it relates to me also.
I think that's a good thing. It's contagious. That's why.
Indeed, indeed.
So from this podcast itself, I've learned a lot today as well with these two very, experienced people talking. So I have a lot of thought process going in my head now how I could, do the change. But what I want to tell the listeners is that loyalty is very important in business, but change is also important. If we do not do the necessary changes when it's needed, then that's a bad recipe for failure. So we should. That's my message to everyone who's listening in.
Growing with the evolving technologies.
Yes, correct.
I think I go with the whole theme that I've been speaking about, which is extreme sense of ownership. I mean, for entrepreneurs, it's encouraging the people that work with you to understand the goals, communicate the goals like we discussed, but to encourage them to take ownership into their work. And for people who are working, to look at their workplace as a place that provides them an opportunity to grow and use it as an opportunity to grow and work along those lines, because even if the company is not going to give you the necessary promotions or career advancement that you want it to give you, nothing is wasted. What you learn, you could shift, like what Shehan mentioned. If it's not giving you the growth that you're looking at, you could shift. But you could only shift if you learn and grow, and that can come when you have a mentality to think, hey, I need to take ownership of my work. So I say extreme sense of ownership is important with the work you do.
Extreme sense of ownership. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today
Thank you for
on
having us.
GEPic Journeys. If you enjoyed this episode, you don't forget to subscribe, and we'll be back soon with another episode.
If you enjoyed that video, make sure to like and subscribe to the GEP YouTube channel. And we also have a bunch of very interesting practical short courses which are related to the episodes from the podcast. So stay tuned.